Hello and welcome to Building the Premier Accounting Firm. I'm your host, Roger Knecht, president of Universal Accounting Center, and this is a podcast dedicated to you, helping individuals start, build, and have the premier accounting firms in their area, offering quality accounting services and getting paid what they're worth. It's in this show each and every week we bring on the experts and we talk about things related to marketing, selling, pricing, tech stacks, mental health, and the variety of things that basically influence our day-to-day operations and interactions with our clients. And this week, we're going to have a guest on the show that I'm excited to have. She's someone I've known for years. This is Kellie Parks. Kellie crafts processes and automations for future-thinking accounting professionals who believe in the mightiness of online technology. She wants every accounting professional to love running a cloud-based business as much as she does. The keys to embracing the cloud are effective best practices, consistent communication, and efficient processes, systems, and workflows, which is why she has done dozens of, or has pre-built templates that take the pain out of creating optimization in the firm off of your plate. So she is a certified and partnered with a dozen of cloud applications. She is a proud member of the Intuit International Training Writer Network and the FreshBooks Partner Council. She is a runner, water and snow skier, and loves music. She's a big music fan, especially live music. She is also someone that, if you're wondering, she's always wondering what you would do more outside of work if processes, automations, and apps gave you your life back. So, Kellie, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you for having me, Roger.
Yeah, this is going to be a good discussion.
Yeah. And it's nice to see you again. You and I are going to see a lot of each other coming up and in the past.
We are. I understand you're going to be in Chicago. I know you're going to be in St. Louis. So you're going to see me at least twice more this year.
Yeah, for sure. And I want to thank you again for having me at your conference. I really, really enjoyed it. And it was an eye-opener for me how your members of Universal Accounting, they are a very dedicated crowd to your program. As well they should be. But man, they love you guys.
Thank you. Well, we put a lot of heart and soul into what we do here, so I'm glad they're showing that loyalty and exuberance. So that's helpful. Let me do this. I know you're obviously a practicing accountant, but at the same time, you speak a lot on technology, tech stacks, utilizing things. I want to kind of start with, first of all, your journey of just how you got to the place that you are and why it is that you're so passionate about it before we get into the details. So give us a little bit of a background of your coming into the accounting space.
Okay. And just to be clear, I'm a bookkeeper. I'm a certified professional bookkeeper up here in Canada. I am not a CPA or an industrial accountant or management accountant of any kind. And I like to be very clear on that because I didn't do the heavy lifting of getting my certification as a certified, whatever, the CPA designation. I have all the respect in the world for that. So I want to be very clear on that. But I started out because I had businesses of my own that I felt, first of all, I had a marketing and branding company. And in the marketing and branding company, I was doing heavy job costing. These were big projects. These were for securities compliance, their annual reports for banks, and they were big projects. I did heavy job costing, and I'm doing it all outside of an accounting platform because I couldn't really find a system that I liked. And I was always in back time with my accountant on where my books were at. And to be honest, I'm not going to bash anybody. I had a really hard time getting a bookkeeper who cared about my books as much as I do.
That's valid.
I started toying with first of all, I was invoicing out of FreshBooks anyways, even for the size of my company. So that's back in 2009. I took it out of Word and I put it into FreshBooks. That was a game changer. I loved it. I could have people time tracking in there. So in 2009, I actually adopted the first kind of cloud accounting program for my business.
Very nice.
And my husband had a few businesses going on. So we're using, I'm not loving the experience I'm getting on the accounting world. And what I realized is bookkeeping was a lot like the project management that I was doing in the branding and marketing world. I really, really came to love it. So I also, in the marketing world, we were, let's go 30 years ahead on cloud technology. We were using FTP sites when they were ugly, and we were using PDFs when they first came out. Now people think PDFs are just like normal. They weren't normal. Yeah. That was a big lift to adopt PDF for proofing to be able to send to people. And we were using something called InDesign. We moved our way out of some of the desktop programs for design and using InDesign. And then we were using, anyways, we started adopting and direct to plate. And all of this was ugly and it had fails. And, the one day when you couldn't get the bike courier because he's mad at you now that you're using an FTP site. So because we were transferring files in downtown Toronto. So, it wasn't pretty in the beginning. And as it evolved, I knew that I wanted to be where the technology was going, not where it was. And I'm glad I adopted that ride because by the time some other people caught up, they weren't in the digital space and a lot of our print had gone digital. I was comfortable with it by the time it went mainstream. So the part of that is I'm comfortable with cloud technology with all of its failures and things because I know I want to be where it's going and we're pretty much there now. So when I adopted QuickBooks Online in 2012, it wasn't pretty. FreshBooks was already pretty, but I knew that it was going to do great things for me. I was already actually hosting, because I've been working remote since 2009. I was already hosting QuickBooks Desktop on QBox. At first it was Dropbox. Actually, it was Dropbox. And then it was on QBox. So what I found, though, was that managing marketing projects was a lot like managing bookkeeping files. There's details. You're pulling together all kinds of pieces. You're pulling together all kinds of stakeholders. I really liked doing my own books. And then I moved into doing other people's books just because I liked it so much. And then transitioned out of the marketing world and into the accounting world.
So I'm curious, that perspective that you're bringing to the accounting space because of having been a past business owner and more importantly in this product space, what kind of perspective or insights do you have that you feel is different than a traditionally trained accounting professional?
Yeah, it's way different because I am, first of all, I knew my experience was everything was in hindsight with accounting. I like those books to be in real time, which is one of the things that the cloud accounting can allow us to do. We do weekly bookkeeping for our clients. I was comfortable in technology already because printing and design work is all technology driven. But having owned a business, so I'm working with someone right now. I take the love them and leave them engagements. I don't necessarily keep clients. I've got monthly recurring revenue, but I also take clients in. I'm doing some work with somebody who they're trying to do their retirement strategy. What's that exit going to look like? There's partners in a business that and they're not an ongoing client, but I can take a look at their books and we could talk about some of those kinds of things because I already did that a couple of times. So it gives a whole different perspective to have owned businesses outside of the accounting space to now have a bookkeeping business. And it also having the marketing business gives me unique perspective. I work with our app partners. Because I've been at it since 2012, I've been in the space earlier than most people, especially up here in Canada. Although Canada adopts technology like it's nobody's business, we seem to love it. I can work with some of those app partners, not just on product, but on speaking accountant and how to go to market. So I get to work with app partners in a whole different way too, having been a business owner, not a bookkeeper.
All right, so let's go into the app partners. I like the terminology. Obviously, it's suggesting that they are collaborating with us to get the work done. Yep. So that partner is very good. Now, the point that I'd like to make is we have in the accounting space a lot of conversations about tech stacks. It's to suggest that there's these different tools we're utilizing via technology to accomplish our work, to work more efficiently, be more productive with our time, to take care of our clients. And there are two different types of tech stacks. This is how I define them, is one's client-facing. It's the ones that the client will interact with, things that might impact the client because we're asking them to log in, input, do things. Then there's the internal. There's the ones that the clients never experience, but they are the ones we're utilizing to work efficiently within the firm. And it's what we're using with our staff to maybe do project management and so forth. Do you have any comments regarding either the client-facing, the internal, or just tech stacks in general?
Sure. Yeah, I define them the same way. It's funny though, some of them roll over into both worlds.
Yeah.
So my practice management app is Financial Sense. I had to teach my clients what to expect with Financial Sense because they're going to be interacting with their own task list and their own way of communicating and chatting with me. So that's kind of back office for me, and it's kind of client facing. But then you've got the really traditional ones, right? So you've got the accounting program, you've got the document management program. From in my world, I have one client still on HubDoc. I love them all. I don't underestimate what this has done to change our worlds. So I have a Facebook group, and in that Facebook group, there is no app bashing because our worlds have been changed even by the ones that have quirks. So some of the document management ones, they have quirks. I love them though. So Knecht is the one I use the most of. That's client facing. Mm-hmm. I have to teach my clients to use that properly and to love it. I use Pluto for payment platforms. Doesn't matter which payment platform, that is going to change your client's day, not to have checks or e-transfers going on. It's going to change our day because we're going to know what happened versus checks and e-transfers. And then the internal ones that I live and die by are 17 Hats, which is doing my engagements and re-engagements. I love Google Workspace, anything Google. Actually, at Scaling New Heights, I'm speaking on Google. So that is my topic coming up next week. But I think what some people don't do, like in my client vetting form, there's 5 criteria for them to kind of come into my world.
Please.
And one of the criteria is that they will they'll go paperless and use they'll use QuickBooks Online. I'm not dissing any, I love Xero, I love all of them, but I'm small, I got to pick one, right? So they have to use QuickBooks Online. And then this is a lesson that I learned. They have to have their bank feeds connected is the next question. You can't collaborate in real time if you don't have those bank feeds running. But I've had people, I'm going to use QuickBooks Online. Then it turns out they're not going to use the bank feeds.
Yeah.
So, but what I do is once we are engaged, when the engagement letter goes out, I have 3 sections where they sign off on the cloud technology. One of it is they acknowledge that their data is in the cloud and it's using, in general, Knecht, QuickBooks Online. It is using Pluto for payments. Then there is a section that says, these are the apps I'm using to run our collaborating world together. And I have them sign off that their data may be in it. And that includes Rewind, which is backing up their files because they generally don't know about Rewind. That's one of those that cross. So it's backing up the QuickBooks files. That's one of the ones that crosses. Is it client facing or is it, right? Because it's attached to the accounting file. And then the last one is an acknowledgement, even if they came to me with QuickBooks Online, that their bank feeds are connected. So, and that they are responsible. So I have my clients keep their bank feeds connected. They get a weekly reminder to go in or their admin, reconnect the bank, make sure the bank feeds are running, and make sure they can lay an eye on what some of those transactions are that they may not have put into Knecht. So I have them acknowledge at 3 different levels in the engagement letter, and it's not a check mark, it's initials.
Okay, so because of this technology you're using and they're signing off in the letter of engagement what they should expect, I'm curious, as part of the onboarding process, how much time does it take to, 1, get everything in place with the various logins, passwords, but also 2, the training, the introduction to the client of these experiences? What kind of onboarding process or timeline do you have?
Yeah, so I actually have a 7-step process for onboarding that includes the vetting and it includes the information gathering, the engagement and quote. I do a file review, all of that. When we get down to the technology implementation milestone, it can look quite different for each client because some of them are coming to me on the tech stack already and they've been using it. Then all we need to do is have a session on possibly looking after their bank feeds, because some of them are coming to it with those looked after by the accounting firm, but that's so sticky now. We have to make that change. I teach them how to use a Chrome browser. I give them a Chrome browser bookmark, so they are using a folder and bookmark system. They're not using the native navigation in QuickBooks Online. And we go through a security session. I make sure that they're implementing 2FA and that if they'll let me, I'll put them on a password app.
Tell everyone 2FA.
2-factor authentication.
Thank you. There you go.
You're welcome. So, but some people come to me and they need the full meal deal training, or their staff does, for a SaaS company that was it was a love them and leave them 2-year engagement to get their files ready to go for financing and sale. But all of their team had to be on Dext for the expense reporting. I generally have a team session on Dext because my clients, I don't think I have any that don't do expense reporting for their team members.
Okay.
So unless they're already using it, there's a Dext component for their team members. Everybody is so different, but the one thing I do is I also have a session on just working with me, using that Chrome browser, what it's going to look like with Financial Sense, what it's going to look like that we're going to, on the engagement letters, we do a 3-month engagement and then we move on. So, but then like some people, I am a trainer with Intuit. So sometimes then I break it into 3 sessions. So we'll do the one on QuickBooks, Dext, and Pluto. Then we'll do the one on collaborating with me, and then we'll do the one on security. We may need a 4th. I put a lot of upfront time into my clients to make them somewhat autonomous in the day-to-day things so that we can actually talk about the bigger things.
So I'm curious, technology can be overwhelming for some. And I've had experiences where whether I'm working with accounting firms or I'm working directly with my own clients, there are business owners that aren't as embracing of these things that we're asking them to do. How patient are you with your clients as they're going through this learning process?
Well, I can be pretty patient. I know I'm generally, except for that, if I'm in the situation where it's a 2-year engagement, they're going to pay me for that training because I'm probably just setting them up for success without me. Maybe they're going to an audit firm or whatever the case may be. Mm-hmm. I had a client and she was somewhat technology resistant. I can be a really good cheerleader. Mm-hmm. And every conversation we had was what it was going to do for her, not why I'm using it, how it was going to help out her life.
Yeah, there you go.
How it was going to help out her team member's life. And so day to day, did she love working in it? No. When her parents got sick, they live in another country, she was overjoyed with what the technology could do for her because she's now leaving. Yeah. She also had a retail operation. Space was at a premium. She loved her paper though. But once she realized she could free up space from filing cabinets by using HubDoc or Dext, she was on HubDoc at the time, that she kind of missed her paper, but she didn't miss the real estate part of it. Yeah. And the getting people to file things and all of that stuff that went along with it. So did she love it day to day? No, not really. She didn't like having to log in. She liked leaving a desktop program open and going back and forth to it. Did it change her life? And did she love what it did for her business and her life? Yes. That's an example.
Yeah, I love it because I think the context there is very important. It's realizing that it's not about you. It's helping the client see how this relates to them and how they'll benefit from it. And I think that helps soften the blow for some of the expectations we have of them as we're asking them to do things that they may seem, beforehand, I didn't have to do this. So before working with you, I was doing fine. And it's helping them realize we need to move in a better direction here. And trust me, it's going to work out. But it's also insisting that at some point, this is if you don't do it, I don't know how we're going to be able to work together because you're impeding me of being able to do the work I need to do. So there's some components of that there.
And I just want to put in that every single statement, even though it is all about Kelly, realistically, it's all about Kelly. Every single statement I make about technology or processes or why we're doing things is client facing. Yeah. So even if I'm not going to take a client on, for example, my line is, I cannot bring value to your business.
Yes.
Then the opposite one is, this is going to bring X, X, and X value to your business. It's never, look, I like doing it this way. It's always the why. It's never just the how.
Yeah, those 2 statements right there encapsulate everything. It's about them and it's the value that you're going to be able to deliver because of this. Yeah, no, this is wonderful. So here's where I'd like to go next. You and I have had a variety of conversations as it relates to AI. Some of the things that have been going on. Obviously, ChatGPT has been in the news for some time now. It's been the buzz. But the conversations you and I have had about this, I really think I'd like to have, again, to share with these people that are listening, what should we kind of think of this whole thing that we're observing? First of all, for those that are maybe new to this, why does it matter? Are they coming for our jobs? How is this going to change what we're doing on a day-to-day basis?
So there is a great saying out there, and you've seen it across all of the industries. I'm going to use the accountant version of it. Accountants will not be replaced by AI. Accountants will be replaced by accountants using AI.
Wonderful.
Yeah, and so that's not my saying, but it is all over the World Wide Web now. If you already hesitated on cloud accounting because and especially document management because it was going to take away the data input aspect of your life, you are clearly not going to adopt AI to do efficient things for you. It's a mindset, 100%. So adopting cloud technology with bank feeds and documents that OCR the information and publish it through to QuickBooks, and then payment platforms that you just click some things off. If you're the person that wants to open the paper, then and flatten out the mail and input it into the program and then mail a check, AI is probably coming for your job in the long term. Is there still a space for all of that? Sure. There are clients that aren't giving up paper either. AI is only going to mess with the people that are doing the same thing. So bank feeds never messed with clients that want bank feeds that match up with bookkeepers and accountants that want manual processes. Those relationships still exist over here. I don't think we should discount that those are there. But you've got this whole middle group that is going, okay, well, I like some of it, and I still want to do some manual stuff because that makes me feel needed, and a timesheet, I give something concrete to somebody, I work this long. That's easy, but that is the stuff that's going to be replaced by the accounting professionals and the clients. That's my world. The accounting professionals and my clients are adopting new technology, and we're working hand in hand together. It's these middle ones that are really going to struggle. So did that make sense?
Yeah, that helps. So let's talk about Chaz. Sometimes people will bring that up. What's that?
So Chaz is Chat GPT. You got to give him a name. It's not a she or a he. Nickname it so it feels more like it's your assistant. It isn't just this thing coming for your job. And the places that you can get some great lift out of it. Now, I've been using Grammarly forever, long time.
Oh,
Grammarly
love
is
love it.
Right, love it. It's essentially AI. It is now AI on steroids. Like Grammarly can go in and summarize your emails. It can summarize documents. It's doing all of the stuff that Google says it's going to do, that Google released this week. Talk about timing. So it's releasing it in phases. Google is the things to summarize, the things to create content, all of that stuff. Grammarly's been doing that forever. And I have not hesitated to use that. I don't look nearly like the ding dong of stuff going out with spelling mistakes and grammars. Although I do fight Grammarly on commas a little bit. I don't know about you.
Oh, yeah, it's a little comma heavy, but
it loves its commas. At any rate, Chaz is a lot of that. It is going to be amazing for marketing. I am using so it's ChatGPT, which is under the umbrella of OpenAI as the parent company.
Correct.
AI is artificial intelligence, and ChatGPT and Bard
yep.
And I love even though I'm not, Microsoft is one of those technologies that defeats me. I even have trouble logging in. It's like, it's a comedy show. There's a technology for everybody, right? That makes you feel like a dum-dum. It's Microsoft. And so I love how they have named their product. It's Copilot. It's not fighting you, right? They're not even using the word AI. They're using Copilot. I think that is brilliant. I think Bard's a little harsh. I think ChatGPT has too many syllables.
Yeah.
So, but embracing it for even just helping you write your emails, helping you summarize a document. I had a 17 email thread that came in that was making my face melt off. And I asked Grammarly to summarize it. And then I could parse out the one thing that I needed to do. That was amazing. I have a weekly newsletter. Okay, well, it's almost weekly. Sometimes I slide, right? I slip up. On that weekly newsletter, I sometimes get stuck on expanding my idea, putting it into chat, asking the questions in the right way, because you've got to feed it in a lot of information and say, okay, I am an accounting professional. My audience is accounting, and I want to talk about using sort, filter, and batch in. I actually didn't use AI for my one this week, but I'll give it all the information you can, and it will give you the talking points, and then you don't copy them verbatim, but you can make sure they're true, and then you can use them to get unstuck on content. So using it in the marketing world is really quite something. In the communication world is really quite something.
Yeah. So I want to highlight something that you just spoke on in passing that I think is very important, because I believe of three parts of the AI interaction that we're having with it as accounting professionals, I think this is the first part or phase of it, and it's the prompts that you're referring to.
Yeah.
The ability that we have as individuals to ask the right questions of these various interfaces is the power that we're then able to tap into. So if we ask the right questions, if we're doing the correct prompts, it then will give us what we're looking for. If we poorly phase or state the prompt, then we're going to get poor information back. And so I think becoming a prompt, not necessarily expert, but familiar with the prompt and how to go about that process is going to be one of those skill sets that's going to be highly in demand. And if you're interested in that, that's going to be powerful. But then I think what we need to do is recognize that it's not necessarily at the programming level that I believe any of us need to be really interested. It's at the integration level with the various platforms that we're using. So you've got, like you said, Copilot. It's how does that system that we're using, whether it's HubDoc, whether it's QuickBooks Online, these various companies are going to integrate into their systems the use of AI so that we as users can better utilize the system we're already paying for. So I'm curious, you're very involved with Intuit. Do you know of, or can you share with us any insights as to how Intuit's planning on integrating AI into the platform we're already using?
Yep. This is not NDA information. I want to come back to the prompts, though. A lot of people are starting to overthink the prompts now. Think of the prompts as if you actually have somebody standing next to you that is going to do what you're asking them to do.
It's a conversation.
It's a conversation.
Yeah.
So exactly how you would ask a team member to do something to get the best results. So you wouldn't just say, I don't know, write me an article on, or a virtual assistant that you don't know. They don't even know you're an accounting professional. And then you're going to say to them, I don't know, write me a session title on something. That's not how you tell a human to do it. It's very interactive. Prompt it or ask it to do things for you and give it all of the details you would give a human being.
On this note, I want to really highlight what you're talking about here. If you haven't done it yet, go to one of these interfaces such as ChatGPT. Just use the free platform and have a conversation with the prompts. Just ask a question. It's going to give you an answer. Ask a question.
Yeah.
You'll be actually, I think, amazed at the intellectualness of this conversation. You can have a very deep, thoughtful conversation with a computer.
Now, here's where I think we need to be careful. Well, there's a few things. I know you and I are going to get to the security part of it in a minute. You need to be careful. I like to Google things because I get various opinions from a number of sources that may not agree with each other. That enhances our critical thinking. That gives us perspective. If you are in, and we'll just use Chaz as the example for now. There's lots of them, but let's just use Chaz. If you were in there, you're getting its perspective unless you prompt it properly and say, give me 5 different opinions. But people aren't doing that. They're saying, tell me about something.
It's a singular conversation.
It is. Whereas if you Google something, I think it's better for critical thinking. I think it's better for not going down, this is how it is, because it isn't. There's always various opinions on something.
Yeah. All right. Well, so let's go to Intuit and then the security.
Okay. So, Intuit so our language with Intuit was always not robotic processes, but I think it was robotic process. I can't remember the term we were using up until now. I should have that term at my fingertips, but I don't. And now in the last couple of months, of course, now bank feeds are AI. They aren't machine learning. So bank feeds have always been referred to as machine learning. Now they are AI. And so I've had some mighty discussions, and we don't have time for it, on what the difference between machine learning and AI is. So Intuit is, and they've publicly stated, they have gone all in on AI now. They have all hands on deck building stuff inside of QuickBooks for us that is going to take machine learning into the AI world. And I think the place we're going to see some of that is going to be in the coding information. The bank feeds right now, I call them like the little kid at the front of the class. It thinks it's got the answer. It's got its hand up and it's waving it excitedly, but it's not always correct. I think AI is going to take some of that away. I think we're going to see better reporting, more insight. I think what it's going to do is put some of the things that we're doing outside. I'll go back to that word, critical thinking, and then advising our clients. I think that's going to be coming more into QuickBooks Online. And this is all out there. You can Google what they're doing on it. You can't ask Chaz, obviously, because this is all since 2021. But you can Google what they're doing on it. And for anybody who doesn't know what that reference is, Chaz is only trained essentially up to 2021, although it is now being trained in a new world. Yeah.
So the information that it pulls from or utilizes to answer the questions is from 2021 and back. The other thing to just realize is because of how AI works, Chaz in particular, what it does is it does a hallucination in an effort to try and answer questions that it doesn't have an answer for. So it'll make things up because it knows it needs to respond. So anyways, some tangential things that we can get into. All right, let's talk about security real quickly. If I take my numbers from my client and I give it to the AI to analyze and interpret and give me some input on, I'm putting that information out into the world. I'm putting that information now in AI, and it now has what's proprietary public. What do you have as advice regarding how to utilize it and keep things secure? Okay, so I'm going to go down a couple of rabbit holes. I am in a couple of private chat groups with some insanely smart accountants who are so forward thinking, and I just feel like the little kid at the table, but I'm having a ball. And one of our chat groups, just to give you an idea, was, let's go 12 hours ahead of the SVB news breaking. So those of us in that chat group could compose notes to send to our clients and said, don't process any payments. Stop right now. Right? These guys and gals are so smart. And now some of the things that I'm seeing in our chat groups are around, it's not all AI. And we know this. The OCR information in some of our document management apps and in some of the other applications that we use has always had humans in the background. I think that's something to be aware of. It doesn't like it did, but it did. If it didn't OCR information right away in some of these programs, that meant there was a human looking at it and putting the information back in. That was the early stages of OCR. That's the same thing right now. I have now read quite a few articles where there are humans, not in artificial intelligence, that are still feeding the information. So not the information we're feeding it, because we're all feeding it now. But there is like these shops set up around the world where there's humans taking the information that people are putting in and then feeding it back in to augment the learning that ChatGPT has going on. I think that's something to be aware of. There are eyes on it. OpenAI doesn't have a long history of security. Some of their security measures are not in place. Like they're not, even the simplest things like 2FA, like we just talked about, they have started to bump it up. But when it first was like making its brainstorm until 2 months ago, if you changed your password, it didn't log you out of anywhere else. So if people could get into your account and you are putting in proprietary information, so that's the first thing. You could get into somebody, just like if you don't put all of the security measures in place on Google, somebody could get into your Google. Well, it doesn't even have some of those security measures. It doesn't have some of the basics to get into the program itself. If you take something like OpenAI, which doesn't have a history of it, doesn't have shareholders that they're accountable to, and then you say,
So I would never put client data in it. It is never going to get a client name and their client information and all of their stuff, because is that the public domain, or also can it be used for nefarious reasons? So there's two reasons not to. And then some people have said to me, okay, well, you're giving Intuit all that information. Intuit has a proven track record of security, has insane security measures in place, and has shareholders. They've got everything to lose if they have security breaches or if they make private data public. So you got two things. Are you going to have a data breach, or are you going to have private information made public? So yes. I think those are two concerns, and you need to decide who has the security track record on this and who has the most to gain from keeping private information private.
Yeah, so I'm going to add two things here, one of which is a clarification. I think earlier on, you're right to say that what we're having is a public conversation when having this interaction with AI. So if you're using ChatGPT, these various interfaces, we have to understand it's a open public conversation,
right?
Because as you put the data in, it is common knowledge. It's publicly available at that point. So whatever you put in there, just consider it as if you were having an open conversation in a public venue. The second thing is as different platforms choose to integrate AI into their platforms, so Intuit, let's say, for example, what we have to believe is they're going to update their terms and conditions to show how they're going to utilize AI and what it's going to have access to outside of their wall. And so that's what we're going to have to see, is how each of these different service providers that we're working with start to integrate the AI into the platform and allow us to leverage that with the tools we already are paying to utilize. But this transformation of you're already using a platform and they choose to bring into it the AI interface, that's going to change the dynamic. And we've got to just basically understand, as that evolves, you're going to have a kind of a Wild West, I think, here for the next little bit as to lessons learned. Just to give you an example, do you remember the experience with Facebook and all the negative press that came from the fact that they were selling data and people were mining the data to make, political decisions and so forth? Well, initially, Facebook was, I'm sure, benign to the fact that this was even possible. They were indifferent. Who cares? Give them this, give them that.
Right.
But all of a sudden, you start to see how people nefariously use that information. And then you realize, we just can't give it out. Even if we're selling it, we can't give this stuff out. And so I believe over the coming years, you're going to see things tighten down through experience. And it may not be mistakes that the platforms make themselves, but they're going to learn from other people's experiences as they start to go public and make the media. So a lot going on there.
Can I mention?
Go ahead, please.
Super quick. I think what people need to be cautious of is the applications that they have integrated with the client data in QuickBooks or Xero as well. There's a couple of applications that have two-way data sync. So the information is coming from QuickBooks. It's also you can change it and it can go back in.
Yes.
Very tempted to use the AI that some of them have now adopted. There's a lot of the two-way syncs that have AI in that could be very tempting to use. But this AI can change the data in QuickBooks. Not only can it know the data out of QuickBooks, it could change the data in QuickBooks. And so I think I disconnected anything that has a two-way sync. Then you've got the practice management apps that are killing it. I'm loving it. They've got guardrails on it. They treat it like a user.
Yeah.
It's like they have admin permissions. They're not going to see any client data. So we've got the client data, let's say in Financial Sense or Carbon or whatever the case is, and we're using AI heavily in those programs now, but it actually can't read any of the integrations that are going on with QuickBooks, because they do have them, but they're not allowed in that part of the platform, where you've got some of these other ones that it's pushing, pulling, and reading all of the information. I think that's a really key thing to keep in mind.
I love what you just shared. Yeah, it's the level of interface that it has, the user interface. Putting it at that admin level is giving it too much information and giving it too much access. Great point. Great point. All right. So yes, time is getting away from us here. So here's what I want to do. I just want to kind of wrap this up and come back to you for a final thought. But before I do this, there is something you said earlier, and I just want to kind of end on this before I kind of tie everything up. You were commenting on, we as accounting professionals have an opportunity to get a lot of data and information and utilize this to better service our clients. And the way I tend to refer to that is a very simple question of therefore what? Here we've got all this tool, this technology, this information, and we're going to our clients and it's enabling us to therefore what? What is this going to empower us as accounting professionals to do for our clients?
So I think we're going to have deeper insights. Right now, a lot of accounting work is done in the past. Those of us who have adopted weekly accounting, some firms are big enough for daily accounting. We've got real-time information, but if we can then have that information accurate in the moment, because right now we're bringing the information in and maybe we've got team members or we've got automation that's doing it, but we only know it's accurate once we've done that manager file review, let's call it. There is so much going on in the ability to have that information. Is it good, clean data? That is the amazing part. The data going in is going to be cleaner when those bank feeds are cleaned up. The OCR is going to be better in some of the other programs, but also our ability to review a file and have the anomalies or the mistakes fed to us. I'm already using that in a number of ways, and it is amazing. And AI is only going to make that better if we keep the right guardrails on it. I'm not being a fun sucker. I love all of this. And so the clean data so that we can actually advise our clients properly, not with the garbage going on back here.
Yeah. Well, Kellie, this is an amazing conversation. We've had this a few times already, and I love that we were able to get this one recorded. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to summarize things as I mentioned, and then I'm going to come back to you for a closing thought. The big thing here that I'd like to just speak to is, first of all, with regards to Kellie's background, she, like so many of the people that I'm working with, got into the accounting profession not directly. She didn't go the traditional route. And I speak with so many individuals that, having previous business experiences and so forth, embrace the opportunity to become bookkeepers and such. And I really believe they bring a breath of fresh air to the accounting profession and the services that we're providing as a profession to our clients in the small business, medium-sized business world. So I really appreciate that perspective. The second thing that I really appreciate is the fact that she is so adept and knowing of technology. She spoke of her early adoption of cloud accounting, just kind of embracing the technologies that were there. She was an early adopter. She definitely uses a number of platforms. And so when we were talking about how you do this with the client, she spoke of her engagement letter, how she has those 3 sections that were very, very helpful to help the client understand what's going on with their information, what's going to be expected of them. I also appreciated the fact that she spoke of the onboarding process that they experience and how she goes through setting up those automated feeds, getting the access, and then hopefully helping the client understand that it's all about them, that we're really doing all of this work to help them. And she gave a great example of one of her clients with her parents needing to leave the country, and the reluctance they initially had on using and adopting these various interfaces. And ultimately, it became something that she was very much appreciative of. And I think that's a great example of some of these things that we may be experiencing with our own clients that may have a reluctance to adopt some of these different things. The last thing I'd like to point out is this whole conversation about AI. Either you're going to embrace it and you're going to take care of clients, or you're going to have an accountant who does embrace it, take care of the client. So I do believe we're in a position as an accounting profession that we can embrace these things and use them to our advantage. We just need to really realize that this is something that is going to be revolutionary very quickly. I'm talking months, if not just a couple of years. And the thing I'll just end on with that is regarding AI. One of the things that I think we just need to accept is the fact that it's a tool for us to better service our clients. If we can just understand how the different platforms we're using are going to integrate it and embrace those tools and use them, it's all to the benefit of our clients. In my opinion, it allows us to do our work more efficiently, quicker. Therefore, we continue to charge the rates that we are, and we get paid more for the time that we're working. So I think this is great all the way around. So Kellie, any other thoughts or a closing comment that you'd like to leave?
No, just that I'm with you. Adopt all of this stuff with enthusiasm, put some rails on it, add the human touch to it. A lot of this can have a great human element, even though it is artificial intelligence. And enjoy the ride. This stuff is fun. It's not all just about efficiency. It's fun too.
I love it. Love it. Love it. All right. So with all that, let me just kind of thank you, Kellie, for being here, and everyone listening. I want to encourage you on a few things. First of all, she does have in the episode descriptions an offer for everyone listening. She has a 15% off coupon that you can use to actually get the templates and workflows that she's created for us. So in the episode description, she'll have information there as to where you can go to take advantage of this and the coupon for you to utilize. And then in addition to that, we also have some information there on 2 great books that all accounting professionals should have as they're working on their business to become profitable. These are must-have additions to every accountant's library, and I would encourage you to go check these out. It's the book In the Black, 9 Principles to Make Your Business Profitable, and also Red to Black in 30 Days. It's the Small Business Accountant's Guide to Quick Turnarounds. These are 2 books that you want to take advantage of that are also found in the episode description. With that, if you haven't already, definitely subscribe to the podcast. You can go back and listen to previous episodes. We've got some excellent playlists. You can find things related to marketing, selling, tech stacks, and the like. So definitely check out all those different episodes. And then regarding GrowCon, early on, Kelly was speaking of our conference. Every year we get together, bringing together the owners of accounting, bookkeeping, tax businesses. We invite you to come and join us. It's from the stage that you hear from the experts. You get to interact with your peers and see what everyone else is doing as they're running their businesses. And you also get to meet us here at Universal Accounting. Basically, the team of individuals that are basically committed to helping you be in business for yourself, but not by yourself. And then lastly, regarding all these concepts and principles, if you'd like to apply them in your business or discuss them further, feel free to reach out to us at Universal Accounting. You can give us a phone call at 801-265-3777, or you can visit us online at universalaccountingschool.com. So with all that being said, thank you for joining us today. Take care, and always remember this: if it's about accounting, it is universal.